Hi, this is James from Mission, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use the Mission Gemini series amplifiers along with software running on your Mac or PC as a practice tool, and in particular in order to emulate particular tones on recordings. Alright, so let's get started. The song that we're going to use here, or the riff that we're going to use to copy the tone from, is Wish You Were Here. It's from Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. It's Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and that famous 4-note riff that comes between the two solos in the beginning of that song. It's a pretty simple riff to play, so it's nice and easy for us to learn. And I'm not going to show you how to play it here. I'll put a link to another video that shows you actually how to play it. We're going to concentrate here on how we get the particular tone that is present on that particular recording. All right, so let's look at the guitar here first. Fender Strat, of course, mostly what David Gilmour used. So that's what I have here. I have EMG pickups in this particular one, which weren't around, I don't believe, when Wish You Were Here was originally recorded. But I got a pretty close sound using these EMGs, and I know that Dave Gilmour has used EMGs in the past. So that works good. I have the pickup selector in the neck position. I tried several, and at first I thought it might be the middle position, but having listened to it and played along with it a few more times, I think it's probably neck position, so that's where we are. And we have the tone control on that one turned all the way up, and then when I'm playing I have the volume control turned all the way up too. If you're using a non-single coil guitar, a humbucker guitar, then use coil taps if you have them. If not, you can turn down the gain a little bit, so turn the volume control down a bit and make sure that your tone control's turned up to full brightness, and that will get you somewhere close. Okay, so I have that guitar plugged into to the guitar input on the back of the Mission Gemini one, and then that's being routed to the USB interface that's in the Gemini one, which is connected to my Mac via the USB cable, so that my software here can run and come out through the Gemini. So basically everything is coming through the Gemini amp. I have my guitar via my modeler here going through the Gemini, and then also I have all of my other audio going through there, so I can play my backing track here. I can play that, and that comes out through the Gemini, and then if I need to listen to the original song, I can listen to that too. And because Gemini is a full range speaker, and you can set it to a flat response so that it sounds like a studio monitor or even a hi-fi speaker, I have that set to that. So that's going to make that's going to do the best job of emulating our Kemp Sims here, and it also is very useful when I'm playing back the recorded material, or I'm playing back a full range backing track, because I'll be able to hear everything all coming through the same amp and speaker, as opposed to having to have my backing track and original recording come through one set of speakers while my guitar's coming through a different speaker, or trying to play full range audio through a regular guitar cab, which doesn't work. So this is one of the things that makes the Gemini super useful for this type of thing. Okay, so let's look at our signal chain. Let's turn all these off, and we'll gradually bring them back in one by one so you can hear the difference. Okay, let's start with just the amp. So the first few times I listened to this recording, I thought it was just a purely clean sound, but having listened to it a few more times, I think there's probably just a little bit of overdrive on there. So I ended up using in S-gear this particular model here, which I think is based on a Marshall. Dave Gilmour primarily used high watt amps, I believe, which are pretty similar to Marshalls, so we'll go with that here. If the modeler that you're using has an actual high watt, then you might want to give that a try. But certainly this one here, I think I got pretty close. You don't want too much gain on there, just enough to give it just a little bit of overdrive. I found that with this particular model, it's actually quite gentle in its unboosted setting, and I could crank the gain pretty much all the way, but I needed to keep off these extra boost settings, so the boost and the tone switch. So let's hear what it sounds like. This is with just the amp model on. So that's pretty close. If I turn on these boost settings, it gets a little bit too far. So, which is actually not a bad tone as it happens, but not what we're going for here. So even with just one of them, that's closer, but it's still a bit much. So I think with those turned off, I think this is closer to the original sound on the recording. So that's what we're going to go with in terms of gain. In terms of the tone stack here, I have bass, middle, and treble. Round about 1 to 2 o'clock. They're pretty much almost in the same position. A little bit past halfway. Treble just a little bit less than the bass and middle. Depending on the exact model that you use, you'll have to tweak those a little bit. Presence I have around about the same as treble, so I have some presence on there. Just gives us an extra little bit of brightness to compensate for the fact that we're down on the bridge pickup down here. So that seemed to be about the right combination. There's also, on this particular model, there's this bright contour switch, and I have that turned all the way. So that gives me something that was fairly close, I think, to the amp sound just by itself. So let's listen to that again. All right, there it is. Okay, next up we need to get some cab sims in there. So here are our cab sims down here. I found that typically I like to use 2 cabs, and that's an easy configuration to do here in S-gear. I really like the way I can just add these 2 cabs in here. But I mostly use the same ones, and then I just put some sort of subtle difference in between them. So you can see I've got 4x12s here. I think Dave Gilmour used WEM cabinets a lot of the time, probably 4x12s, I believe. So I have a couple of 4x12s here. Sometimes I'll move the mics at different distances, so I may put one close and one further away, or I may put one on the one on axis and one off axis. Today what I did is just change the mics, so I have a dynamic mic on one and a ribbon mic on the other. All right, so we'll turn those cab sims on, and let's give that a try. All right, that's sounding pretty close. I think on the recording, Dave Gilmour's using just a little bit of whammy bar at the end of those, and I don't have that on this guitar, so I've been trying to use the body and neck of the guitar to give us something approaching that. It's only very subtle anyway. All right, that's sounding pretty good with the Kemp Sims on, but we're still missing the effects, so let's get those on there. Okay, so our first effect is the reverb. I actually thought it might be delay, and I know that Dave Gilmour used a delay device. A Binson Echo Rec was something that he used quite a lot, and I was wondering if that might be on this recording. So I tried some different tube style delays, but I couldn't get it sounding exactly right. So I moved over to reverb, and I found that if I used a plate reverb, that actually got me pretty close. So I used an more or less off the shelf plate reverb setting called long plate, which is here in the S-gear presets that you get. And really, I think the only thing I changed was I modified this. I turned this data control up just a little bit, and then I also increased the mix just a little. So it's on about sort of 52 or 53% to give you just a little bit of extra reverb in that mix. It's a fairly reverby type of sound, so let's give that a try. All right, that's pretty good. I think we're close with the reverb. So just the rotating speaker to go. So I know that from what I've read and seen that Dave Gilmour used a Leslie rotating speaker or a similar sort of rotating speaker quite a lot, but it never sounded really overpowering in most of the recordings that I've heard, and certainly not in this one. So I'm not even sure that that it's actually being used in this recording, but I found when I added this effect I'm going to show you that it did seem to get me closer to the original sound. So one of the challenges I think is that rather than route the whole signal chain through the rotating speaker, Dave Gilmour would typically run the majority of the signal through the regular amp and cam and other effects, and then just part of the signal through the rotating speaker, or would mix it in so that you had just a subtle kind of undercurrent of rotating speaker as opposed to that really big swirly rotating speaker sound which makes me seasick. So it's a much more subtle effect when he uses it. So I don't even know if it's on here, but by adding this effect I think I got myself closer to the recorded sound. So here's what I did. There isn't a rotating speaker model in S-gear as far as I can tell, but there is these the mod thing, these modulators which are based on a chorus and flange type sounds. So by putting a couple of those in and manipulating those, we're able to get to something close. So I have two of them, and they're pretty low in the mix. And you see these mix controls are turned down pretty low because, as I said, I think it's even if it's present, it's very subtle. So I have those turned down, and I also have the feedback turned down pretty low too. But what I did do is one of them's on a very low delay and one of them's cranked. I'm not quite. This one's at 2 and this one's at 10. I'm not quite sure what those values refer to, if anything, but by getting one of them on a very low setting and one of them on a high setting, it helps give us that rotating speaker type of sound. And the other thing I did here was put the tone on one of them on max and the tone on the other on the minimum. So the difference in the tone and the delay gives you that kind of something close to a rotating speaker sound. Like I say, keep the rate and depth not too much, and definitely keep it down low in the mix if you're going to use it, and then I think you should be pretty good. So let's turn that on and give that a try, and that should be everything. So this is the sound as it as it appeared on that little recording at the beginning of this video. So let's give it a try. All right, I think that sounds pretty close. So that's it. That's how using the Mission Gemini and some software running on my Mac here, I went about emulating that particular guitar tone. So I hope you enjoyed it. Here's the tone again, and I'll see you next time.